All right, David, we'll see you then. Over 100 families throughout the state are concerned about how a potential loss in funding could impact their deaf-blind children. Those children are part of the Wisconsin Deaf-Blind Technical Assistant Project. It's also known as WDB TAP.
This comes as the Department of Education alerted the organization that federal grants could be cut as soon as the end of this month. Victoria Frazier joining us live in the studio with how these cuts could impact those families. Victoria.
Cami, these families say the Wisconsin Deafblind Technical Assistance Project is a lifeline, helping their children communicate, learn, and connect. Now with federal funding on the line, they're worried those essential services could disappear.
These kids are people who deserve every chance in life. And, it's not their fault that they got shorted on their sensory issues.
The Anderson family is just one of about 170 families throughout Wisconsin who have a deaf-blind relative. Their son Liam, who has combined vision and hearing loss, joined the Wisconsin Deaf-Blind Technical Assistance Project 15 years ago and is used to attending conferences and outings that help him in his day-to-day life.
That routine and consistency are imperative in the deaf-blind community. That's how they learn. That's how they know what's going on.
The organization provides resources to the family of deaf-blind students starting at birth until they turn 21 and pays for training educators on deaf-blindness. The Federal Department of Education told the organization earlier this month that funding would be cut because of language use in previous grants not aligning with the current administration's policies, leaving parents concerned on what that means for their child.
Every single deafblind child has a different set of disabilities and needs different sets of resources, and WDB TAP provides the education and the pathway to get those resources for parents.
There are so many kids that are in the middle of very important programs or systems and things that what's going to happen? How do you stop that? You can't just suddenly stop. I mean, how do you stop? There's something, what are those parents supposed to do?
Sid Miller joined the program when he was just 4 years old. He now serves as a mentor for WDB TAP, teaching other students about graphic design, mainly with the use of 3D printers. He says the program has been a major help with school and his personal life.
I did not know about getting live captionist for my online school until they said that I could probably get that through the school, and I asked the school if I could get that, and they said sure, and after that my schooling has become much easier.
State Superintendent Dr. Jill Underly issued a statement saying in part, quote, "Make no mistake, losing these funds will directly impact our ability to serve some of our most vulnerable kids. We are asking for a reconsideration to protect these valuable projects," end quote. We reached out to U.S. Senator Ron Johnson and Senator Tammy Baldwin for their thoughts on the matter and have not heard back yet. The Department of Public Instruction has filed an appeal with the Department of Education. There's currently no update on that appeal status. Chris.